Today's video is sponsored by Brilliant. Look, I'm not going to be gesturing wildly with my hands today because yesterday was my first day back at the gym since COVID. I can barely lift my arms. This has been a highly requested review video lately for some reason. The Audeze Penrose loses a lot of the features of its older brother, the Mobius, which we've looked at before. Features I wasn't really sold on, but it adds wireless, a feature that I'm really sold on, and it comes in at 25% less the cost. This thing sounds amazing, but there's definitely some stuff you need to know. You ready? Let's go! The Audeze Penrose retails for $299.99 or $100 less than the Mobius. If that sounds expensive to you, it is. But keep in mind, we're talking about Audeze, one of the premier names in high-end audiophile headphones. For transparency, Audeze did send this unit out for review. As always, no other compensation took place, wouldn't affect anything I had to say about it, and they didn't get to hear or see any aspect of this video before you did. The Penrose comes in two flavors. The Penrose X, designed for Xbox and PC, and the one we have here today, designed for the PS4, PS5, PC, and Mac. It is much easier to talk about what this is missing versus the Mobius than it is to list things in common, so let's just get that out of the way. First things first, we're gonna lose Waves NX head tracking. I'm cool with it. It's a neat party trick, it's amusing the first time you try it, but it's hardly usable for gaming. We also lose simulated surround sound. Again, not a big deal. Audio engines these days are much more sophisticated. They can do a lot with stereo speakers, and there are numerous options for spatial audio across multiple platforms if that's something you want to experiment with. The only deletion that really pains me is that room ambiance slider, because it has a tendency to open up that soundstage and make it sound really wide in gaming, and that's about the only negative thing I could find to say about the audio quality on the Penrose. All those features really weighed heavy on the battery life though, which topped out at just over 10 hours on the Mobius, so we gained about 3 hours back on the Penrose. At around 13 hours of sustained use, these are very low on the battery life scale. The upshot is that it charges over USB-C, so about 3 hours and you're good to go. The downside is this will not play over the charging cable, so you can play and charge, but you're gonna have to have the charging cable connected as well as the wireless dongle. It's not the first time we've seen this, but in 2021, it feels especially clunky. We retain basically 100% of the build itself, including the all-plastic frame that somehow manages to feel higher quality than a lot of headphones that use large amounts of aluminum. Even the hinges and all the adjustments feel really solid. You can rotate the cups 90 degrees to wear them around your neck. They feel really comfortable like this. The weight comes in right around 370 grams on my scale with the microphone attached. Same memory foam in the crown of the headband and the same leatherette ear cups that are a bit snug in dimensions, measuring 45 by 65 millimeters internally. They are a little shallow as well. My ears touch most of the interior surface. Unfortunately, they also retain the same heat buildup and the same passive isolation issues. Using these inside your home, even if you live in a pretty noisy area, you should be just fine. But if you wear these out and about, you may run into some issues, and they're not very kind to glasses either. The headband is snug. I personally find it pretty uncomfortable right out of the box. It does break in pretty quick, but it always seems to have a lot of clamping force. These always require some adjustments that they're not putting pressure right on that pressure point behind my ear. Between that, the minimal interior space on the cups, and the heat buildup, this is definitely not the most comfortable gaming headset out there. The HyperX Cloud 2 and the Razer Blackshark V2 both lead the league in comfort. But when it comes down to how good this thing sounds versus how much it costs, well, it's a numbers game, and I like numbers games, whether it's something simple like a value conversation or something a little more complex like cryptocurrency or quantitative finance. When I need to feel smarter, I head over to Brilliant, the sponsor of today's video. Brilliant is a learning platform specializing in math and science that goes deeper than just listening to a lecture or absorbing passive content. This is active, highly effective learning through interactive problem solving. I have the Brilliant app on my phone, and every morning I get a new daily challenge. It presents a problem, tells me the concepts I need to understand to solve it, simplifies it as much as possible, and I can submit my answer. Or if I'm particularly stumped, I can show the explanation. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of a giant catalog on Brilliant, using interactive courses to demystify complex topics like neural networks or something a little more down to earth like casino probability. If you're ready to get smarter, visit brilliant.org/BadSeedTech. You can sign up for free, and the first 200 of you to do so will save 20% off the annual membership. Big thanks to Brilliant for continuing to support the channel, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Controls are very similar as well, with everything you need located on the left ear cup. This is done intentionally to prevent you from having to take your hand off the mouse during game. Super smart. I like that a lot. So on that left side, you've got the volume wheel, which is right next to and feels very similar to the mic volume. That's not great, as it takes a while before you're reliably hitting the volume on the first try every time. On the outside of the cup, you have your power power button and your mic mute towards the top of the ear cup. You still get the Audeze HQ software here. It appears as both an Android app as well as a desktop app for both Windows and Mac. There is an iPhone app. Confusingly, it's called the same thing, but it doesn't seem to support the Penrose, and whatever it does support is looking for a wired connection. Also strange, you can connect to the software on a mobile Android device via Bluetooth, but on the PC or Mac side, you have to be connected via the cable and the wireless dongle as well. So you have three methods of connection here. Using the 2.4 gigahertz with the dongle, this works really well, regardless of platform. You just plug it in and go. You got Bluetooth as well, and you can also connect via 3.5 millimeter analog. Now that 3.5 millimeter aux makes it a go for Nintendo Switch and certain audio applications with two important notes. Number one, the battery will still be in use the entire time. There is no passive operation here. And number two, that battery is feeding the internal amp on the headphones. So the last thing you want to do is feed this thing with a bunch of power from an external DAC amp. Best case, you're going to cause clipping and distortion. Worst case scenario, you could damage your drivers. Let's talk about this Bluetooth implementation because it's messy. This is going to be using the SBC codec. That's like the lowest end of all the Bluetooth codecs. I have read conflicting information that it may be using AAC if you're connecting to an iOS or macOS device, but Audeze has not confirmed this. With Bluetooth and wireless, it does provide sound mixing, but the actual implementation is really rough. Like on the PS5, I could listen to game audio and have it connected to my phone via Bluetooth, playing music or Discord chat via mobile, but the PS5 volume was very low in comparison to the Bluetooth. Even maxed out in the system volume, the volume wheel on the headset itself was tied to the Bluetooth volume on the phone, so there was no way to balance the volume levels. Now, supposedly you can click the volume in and release and then rotate up and down, and that's supposed to control the mix between the two sources. I find this to be buggy, if I'm being nice, or completely broken, if I'm being 100% honest. I could achieve no functional mix between the two sources at all, and after I clicked that wheel enough times, it simply stopped sending game audio from the PS5. After about an hour of fiddling with this, I wanted to step out in the front yard and hurl this thing across the neighborhood like a discus. Now, they do have a mix setting for this in the PC and macOS versions of the app, which isn't going to do you much good if you're on a console. I guess the idea here is that you can set it where you think it might need to be with no audio evidence at all, then take it back to the console environment to see if you got it right. Baffling. So then you'd think that the mobile apps would handle this, but again, no dice. The mobile app on Android connects over Bluetooth, but it only controls the Bluetooth volume, which does not seem to function independently of the game audio. The iOS app doesn't seem to function with the Penrose at all. So despite the easy sounding instructions in the manual for sound mixing and making sure I had the firmware up to date, I could not achieve sound mixing on this unit. It was completely unusable for me. Now, that could just be my copy, but trying to get this working was frustrating to say the least. If this is a feature that's really important to you, the SteelSeries Arctis Pro Wireless does a really good job with implementation here, and the newest Virtuoso by Corsair does an exceptional job of implementing this. We will take a look at that headset very soon. Now, if you only want those Bluetooth features for casual music listening, or you just want to take a call real quick while you're mid-game, it's actually pretty handy for that. I find the audio quality of music listening to be adequate, so much so that I couldn't say for sure if it is going over SBC or AAC on my iPhone. There is some notable delay in mobile gaming, but the mic operating over Bluetooth sounds much better than I expected. Now you're hearing it over the 2.4 gigahertz wireless. I don't usually expect a lot from wireless headset mics simply because they don't generally perform nearly as well as their wired counterparts. I would put this middle of the road, maybe low mids. It beats the HyperX Cloud 2, it beats anything from the Arctis series, it beats the Logitech Pro X hardware only, but it doesn't beat it if you have Blue Voice enabled, and it doesn't beat the exceptional mic on the Corsair Virtuoso. Unfortunately, there's no mute indicator on the mic itself. It has only average background noise cancellation, and it does have lag-free mic monitoring or side tone. Only thing with this mic is it seems really sensitive to being in your breath stream, whether that's your mouth or your nose. It's really easy to get like that creepo heavy breathing thing going on. So by now we've heard a lot about what the Penrose does and what it doesn't do very well. So what does it do well? Well, I've never heard a better sounding wireless gaming headset. Period. It sounds nearly identical to the Mobius, but in wireless, and that's a really impressive feat. The detail is incredible. The highs are defined without being harsh or sibilant. Bass feels really balanced. It's not overbearing. These aren't bass monsters. You do have EQ available. It's really effective, though with the onboard amp, it's like a less is more type thing, i.e. it's better practice to take away what you don't want versus boosting what you do, because there's only so much volume overhead, and if you start overloading every EQ band, you're going to push the total perceived volume lower. On that note, if you've had problems in the past where wireless headsets just don't get loud enough for you, this is your boy right here. This thing gets uncomfortably loud. Imaging and directional cues are spot on. That's what gives you the ability to pinpoint your enemy location. Vertical positioning is possible here as well. The only downgrade here versus the Mobius comes in soundstage, or how large that game world feels around you. This all feels very tight and close or intimate to me. This is pretty common in closed back headphones. It's something that Mobius was able to overcome with its room ambiance processing. It also makes really good use of the spatial audio in the PS5 as well as the spatial audio options on the PC. I had no connection issues here. I had no range problems at all. No hiss in the background, just solid performance. So that's what we have here with the Penrose. It's the best sounding wireless headset with great console performance, with a so-so mic, with Bluetooth integration, but worse than average Bluetooth mixing, worse than class battery life, questionable comfort, and software that ranges from decent to unusable depending on your platform, at a $300 price tag. On its own, that sounds pretty crazy, but not so much when you start price comparing the flagship offerings from other brands. Like that new Corsair Virtuoso comes in at $269.99. It doesn't sound as good as this. It's evident that Audeze knows a lot about how to make great sounding headphones and not so much about how to streamline features specifically for gaming. But if you want the best sounding wireless headset out there that performs great on both consoles and PC, this is it. I really hope this is an area that they continue to attack as a company. With some tweaks to comfort and usability, I think people with pockets would gladly overlook middling mic performance and battery life in favor of exceptional audio quality. As always, links down below for everything that we talked about today. Any questions, hit me in the comments. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.